Quick disclaimer before we get started today, this video is going to cover things like dieting and heavily restrictive eating in quite a lot of detail, so if you struggle with food restriction or diets, then this may not be the video for you. And with that, let's get started. Gillian McKeith is a Scottish TV personality, best known for her multiple weight loss shows that aired in the mid to late 2000s. Described in her shows as a superstar nutritionist, she's written several books on nutrition and healthy eating. She also holds certificates, degrees, and a doctorate from top colleges and universities, including Ivy League's University of Pennsylvania, Edinburgh University, and the American College of Nutrition. And I wanted to discuss her career with you today. As I already mentioned, she's hosted several TV shows centered around helping women lose weight. The first, You Are What You Eat, aired from 2004 until 2006, followed by the show we'll be discussing today, Eat Yourself Sexy, which only aired from 2009 until 2010. This later show is essentially a spiritual successor to You Are What You Eat and follows much of its same formula. Gillian is called to help someone, a woman, who's dissatisfied with their weight and low self-esteem. Gillian then makes it her mission to remedy these problems via her nutritional expertise, placing them on a strict diet regimen that they must follow in order to eat themselves sexy. I first wanted to explain the general formula that the episodes of this show follow for several reasons. As well as giving you a good idea of the pitfalls a show like this can fall into, it gives you an idea of how every episode of this show is structured. I'm not joking, each and every episode of this show follows the exact same template. And this template is absurd. The episode will begin with a montage of its subjects explaining their struggles, typically focusing on one or two prevalent issues in their diet. Gillian's then introduced to them and has them throw out all of their junk or bad food, typically while explaining the health risks associated with them. After this, they're taken in for an examination by McKeith, wherein she points out various health issues or insecurities that she notices they have. Gillian then places the subject on a strict diet plan, typically including lots of fresh fruit, vegetables, and more often than not, juice cleanses. Anything other than what Gillian approves of is outright banned at this point. A few weeks into the new plan, the subject of the episode will often begin to crack, if not fail. To motivate them to continue, their husband will leave them a pep talk for them to watch and be inspired to continue. It's also at this point that Gillian will usually offer them a more sustainable diet plan to follow for the remaining few weeks, often to great effect. She also takes them out to a couple's activity, usually dancing, in order to rekindle the romance between them. At the end of the 8-week process, the subject of the episode is shown to their husband, now transformed into a healthier, sexier version, before they thank Gillian and leave. Okay, so with that synopsis out of the way, you might think that this is little more than another poorly aged weight loss show to add to the pile, that there really isn't any more to be said than that. But I wanted to take a look at the formula that this show uses and examine something a little more sinister that's lurking beneath the surface. One of my central issues with this show, and many others like it, is its focus on spectacle rather than effectiveness. Shows like Eat Yourself Sexy, The Biggest Loser, and Fat Families all seek to lean into the bombastic, TV-friendly drama associated with flashy weight loss narratives we see in a lot of media, rather than the more mundane, invisible methods that actually work. Of course, this is partly due to the limitations of being a trashy TV show, but it still hints towards a greater problem, that real weight loss, more often than not, is really quite boring. You find a calorie intake that's less than what your body uses and you stick with it. You know, speaking as someone who's been at every end of the weight spectrum, I found that the only thing that ever worked for me was sticking to a small calorie deficit for months until I hit my goal weight. But obviously that isn't entertaining enough for TV, which is where a lot of this show's issues begin to emerge. So let's talk some specifics. Following the sequence where Gillian forces each person to throw out their junk food, Gillian then shows them which healthy foods they can buy for the equivalent price and proceeds to list off all of their health benefits. Now, this is a good idea in principle, but its execution is done poorly. For starters, look at the actual foods that Gillian gives them.
Also on the menu, lots of raw foods.
You're going to be drinking nettle tea instead of your coffee. Then we're going to dandelion greens.
The weed.
Well, raw shelled hemp seeds, pumpkin seeds, watercress soup, lettuce soup. You can have grapefruit for breakfast.
It's a special cocktail blending papaya, pumpkin seed, magnesium, and shiitake.
I'm pretty certain that at least half the budget goes towards raw fruits and these extremely specific herbs and seeds, which, while definitely visually dramatic for a health-focused TV show, won't exactly keep you full. It's very rare that Gillian starts them off with smaller changes that they can sustain over time and build upon. Rather, it's 0 to 100 right away. Again, this process of weight loss, which often relies on consistency and good habit formation, instead becomes a flashy, overnight transformation that relies on visually interesting, exotic superfoods rather than the more mundane, effective choices. There's one episode where Gillian, after explaining that healthy food doesn't need to be expensive, pulls out an enormous heap of saffron. That stuff is expensive. I wouldn't be surprised if most of the $140 budget went towards it. But of course you aren't meant to think about that. Ultimately, the focus of this show isn't the sustainability of the diet, but how flashy it is. You can see this expressed in the juice cleanses that Gillian will often put these people on. Again, these people have formed unhealthy eating habits over the course of years, maybe decades even, and they're forced to instantaneously switch to raw beet and celery juice? And if these people ever have difficulty making this dramatic and sudden switch, something which is completely understandable mind you, it's treated as little more than precious whining by Gillian and the rest of the production.
It can't be that bad, for goodness sake. This is one of my best juices. When I saw the drama and the face and the frowning and all the rest of it, I thought, oh, here we go. She'll never do it.
And this is the first instance of what I'll describe as this show's playing at weight loss narratives. By that, I mean that this show hits all of the expected beats of what we would consider a compelling weight loss story, like a dramatic shift in habits and abstinence from any foods considered bad. But it doesn't do it very effectively. It's constructed in a way that adheres to the audience's preconceptions of a dramatic weight loss story, but fails to actually engage in what the best habits for weight loss are, in favor of completing this narrative that's being manufactured. Another example of this manufactured narrative is the fact that in every episode, the person following Gillian's diet plan fails in one way or another. And it's not purely down to a lack of discipline on these people's parts, but counterintuitively because these diets are too strict. And this is no accident. Failure's built into this program, it's expected. If we're to look at this show as a manufactured dramatic weight loss arc, then this moment of failure would be the second act low point, the part of a story where all hope seems lost and the main character seems all out of options. Then, just as all hope seems lost, our heroes given a pep talk or key piece of motivation that gives them the drive to carry on and finish what they set out to do. In this case, the message is left for these women by their husbands. Their failure is expected, if not outright encouraged, because it leads to a more compelling TV narrative. The show even doubles down here, with Gillian serving as the wise mentor figure that gives them guidance, in this case, way more sustainable, solid food that actually satiates them. Why didn't you just lead with that? Well, again, it's all in service of a dramatic arc. To put it bluntly, we aren't invested in a story where everything goes well from start to finish. We want to see people overcome, to struggle and then overcome those struggles, pick themselves up and become stronger as a result. The problem arises here when you realize that you don't have to struggle with weight loss. The science is straightforward, the work in that regard is already done. But again, watching someone boringly type numbers into MyFitnessPal for 20 minutes wouldn't make for very good TV. So the people running the show have to implement failure for the main character to overcome. They have to manufacture a struggle for these ladies so that we care about their success. And look, I know what you might be thinking. It's a reality TV show, of course it's staged. Which, yeah, is correct, but there are two complicating factors that make things a little less simple. For starters, in its need to narrativize weight loss, it makes weight loss seem a lot more inaccessible and unclear than it has any need to be. The overblown, dramatic needs of a TV show can't be reconciled with the boring reality of effective weight loss, so you have to skew the facts to keep things compelling. But as we've already covered, all this does is jumble the truth that could help a lot of people. I would know, I've been there. When I was trying to lose weight in the past, I had to dig through so much bullshit, extremist pseudoscience that it became maddening. All shows like this do is further discourage people from trying because of how impossible and overwhelming it all seems, because of its need to dramatize, overcomplicate, and hinder effective weight loss, all in the search for a compelling narrative. But worse than this show's gatekeeping of useful knowledge, dismissal of healthy approaches to weight loss, and shallow appropriation of self-improvement is what all of these elements are in service of. This, of course, being the manufactured expertise of Gillian McKeith. If I had £1 for every time I made a video on a healthcare professional who uses their qualifications to insult other people and elevate themselves and their brand in the process, I would gain £2, and Gillian would probably put me on a juice cleanse to lose them again. She is, for all intents and purposes, the inverse to Abby Sharp. If Abby's problematic behaviours and self-promotion are the result of her rabid avoidance of anything diet culture, Gillian McKeith is, in contrast, its enforcer, complete with her overt focus on sex appeal above all else that Abby lambasts with her Diet Debbie character. I wanted to dive into some of the ways Gillian uses this show as a vehicle for promoting her own expertise above all else, even more so than the health of the people this show concerns. For starters, Gillian uses the failure that she built into her own diet plan as a means to further elevate her own credibility. By this, I mean that whenever somebody falters on her diet plan, her biggest concern isn't with the health implications that may follow, but simply that they're not following her expertise.
Now she's complaining about the food. My food. Unbelievable. I'm not standing for it. There is no way my food tastes bland. Her taste buds are dead. So who do you think would be better to decide what you're going to eat today? You or me? Lyra deviated from my plan, so I decided to sell her skinny clothes.
Don't forget, this is followed by Gillian giving them a more sustainable diet plan anyway, just to prove that she still knows more than the person who failed her first plan. It's this really odd structure where you set somebody up for failure, mock them for failing, and then swoop in to fix their problems that you exacerbated, all in the pursuit of reinforcing how smart and rational you are. It really appears as though this show wasn't created with the goal of helping people, but rather to serve as a vehicle to elevate Gillian and her expertise above those she talks about. Where have I seen that before? And this is best demonstrated by the core concept of the show in these women eating themselves sexy. The main premise of this show, in Gillian helping these women become sexier through the foods they eat, only ever serves to further her own credibility at the expense of giving these women actually sustainable, healthy weight loss habits. The best demonstration of what I'm talking about is the dramatic transformation reveal at the end of each episode. At the start of each episode, during the examination segment, all of the visual language of the show creates the most dire picture imaginable. They're put in this room with overly harsh lighting, in skin-toned, ill-fitting underwear, and Gillian pokes them right in their insecurities. Sometimes the show goes so far as to play a jump scare sound when they disrobe.
On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, just throw it off.
Then, fast forward past 20 minutes of Gillian reinforcing how superior her diet plan is, you have the big reveal segment where all of their hard work has paid off. This is complete with better fitting clothing, warmer, more flattering lighting, way too many necklaces, and of course, some amount of actual weight loss. The focus on sex appeal here is far greater and more prominent than any health concerns Gillian might be able to help with. There's a few episodes where health issues are given a passing reference, but even those are quickly brushed aside to show off another dramatic transformation and focus on the sexiness of the episode subject.
Didn't you just get diagnosed with type 2 diabetes?
Yes. After 8 weeks on Gillian McKeith's plan of healthy eating and exercise, has flabby foodie Erica eaten herself sexy?
You can see this best when Gillian explains the health perks of whatever food she picked out. 90% of the time, the only thing she's able to speak to is their beneficial effect on the libido.
Nutmeg.
Okay.
Has a reputation of stimulating sexual function.
They are a fantastic source of nutrification and also a good source of essential fatty acids for sex hormone production.
Then, asparagus. It has long been extolled for its arousal virtues.
Oh,
For centuries.
Yes.
Figs have been known as an aphrodisiac.
Okay.
So you can have celery, which has been used as an aphrodisiac.
But all this does is hint at Gillian's technical knowledge and expertise without actually applying it in a useful way. It's not really about helping these people become healthier, but taking an extremely specific symptom of a greater problem, throwing all of your theoretical knowledge into fixing that one specific thing, and then extrapolating it to the greater problem at hand. In this case, health issues and low sex appeal are conflated with one another and interlinked by the language and structure of the show. It's positioning these two completely separate issues as one and the same. And while I'm sure some of this is down to the trashy 2010s format, I fear that there's also something more sinister going on. You see, it's a lot easier to manufacture an improvement to how sexy someone feels than it is their actual health. Again, it's a TV show, you have to be able to see the dramatic before and after, and that's a lot easier to do with attractiveness than it is something as invisible and nebulous as health. And it becomes even easier to see when you use all of those shortcuts and tricks I mentioned earlier. Couple this with Gillian's extremely specific knowledge on which foods make you sexier, you get the impression that it's her knowledge and expertise that's led to this dramatic transformation. All of this is to say that this show serves as a vehicle for Gillian's own expertise and brand. The image of a no-nonsense nutritionist who'll give you the brutal truth, destroy you with facts and logic, science and sass, to make you eat yourself sexy. Disregarding the effectiveness of what Gillian preaches, this show manufactures a compelling weight loss narrative that keeps its viewers engaged throughout and elevates Gillian and her credibility in the process. And yeah, there's a question I'm sure a lot of you are asking right about now. Why does Gillian McKeith, a superstar nutritionist with a PhD, have to resort to such trickery in the first place? As I already mentioned, Gillian holds certificates, degrees, and a doctorate, that's a PhD, from top colleges and universities including Ivy League's University of Pennsylvania, Edinburgh University, and the American College of Nutrition. That's actually directly quoted from Gillian's website, as it was in 2004 when she first rose to prominence with her first TV show, You Are What You Eat. Now, these qualifications are promising. After all, a master's and a PhD have to count for something, right? Especially when they come from well-respected institutions like Pennsylvania or Edinburgh. But there's a slight problem. On Gillian's website, as it sits to this day, she simply lists the degree she earned without stating what she actually got a degree in. And this should strike you as pretty strange, right? Considering how desperate Gillian seems to maintain her own credibility and authority in the show, you would think she'd be screaming her academic achievements from the rooftops. As it turns out, there's a reason for this. That, of course, being that Gillian's degrees from these two institutions have nothing to do with nutrition. Her degree from the University of Edinburgh was in language and linguistics, and her master's degree from Pennsylvania was in international relations. This lie becomes even more bizarre when you see that Gillian actually does have a PhD from the American College of Nutrition, a very well-respected and accredited organization. Oh, hang on a second. Her website later updated this to the American Holistic College of Nutrition, who later rebranded to the Clayton College of Natural Health. The key difference? The American College of Nutrition is an accredited organization. The Holistic College isn't, at least not in any way recognized by the US Secretary of Education. This wasn't a one-off mistake either. Gillian misrepresented her qualifications using the exact same phrasing in one of her books, Living Food for Health. But I mean, I get it, okay? Words can be hard. It's not like you have a degree in linguistics or anything. It's generous to even call this a PhD, considering it's a correspondence course, that means distance learning, from a non-accredited institution, which requires no previous education in scientific studies. The only barrier to entry is having a bachelor's degree in any topic. Oof. So let's call this what it is, a mail-order diploma. She was actually forced by the Advertising Standards Agency to stop calling herself Dr. McKeith because she lacked the proper qualifications to use that title. There was also her certified membership with the American Association of Nutritional Consultants. Again, such a title might sound credible until you learn that Guardian journalist Ben Goldacre was able to pay $60 to obtain this same certification in the name of his dead cat. So what can we gather from all this? Well, Gillian McKeith is clearly a fraud. Her entire TV presence and legacy is the result of her manufacturing her own hype and expertise, all at the cost of some certificates that anybody could get with enough disposable income. She wasn't qualified, she wasn't trained, and she had no idea what she was talking about. So, with all of this uncovered, knowing that she lied her way to fame, knowing that she never had a clue in the first place, we can ask, what did Gillian's expert advice actually boil down to? Eat less. Eat healthier. Don't eat bad food. Not exactly rocket science, is it? And while not technically wrong, it's so mind-numbingly lifeless, so unhelpful, that it ultimately does nothing to identify the issues that caused each of these women to gain weight, nor does it do anything to actually, fix those underlying issues. Rather, Gillian just applies the same formula to them over and over again. Same diet, same approach, same juicer even. They probably only had the budget for one. Hope they washed it between episodes. All of this trickery was in service of one thing: the manufacture of Gillian's image as a no-nonsense, tough-love, superstar nutritionist who can help you eat yourself sexy. But knowing that Gillian was never qualified to do anything that she did, doesn't that make stuff like this?
These stretch marks, not great looking.
This is not good, is it?
No.
There's no tone at all.
I'd say this is more of a problem. We've got double rolls here.
This is the biggest problem.
Look more sinister? Isn't it pretty messed up that this woman, with no professional credibility whatsoever, was able to make a living bullying these overweight women and forcing them to endure these miserable diets? And they just accepted it? They accepted it because they were promised an end to their insecurities, and when Gillian, the fraud, promised them an end to their issues, they willfully went along with whatever degradation she had in store for them. This show infuriates me because its core premise is structured around making people think they're being helped, while never giving them the tools to actually help themselves. These women never learn what a calorie is, they never learn how to stay satiated. All they learn is to listen to Gillian as she degrades, mocks, and humiliates them for the sake of her brand, all the while never actually helping them in a substantial way. This show is a cult of personality, funded by people's desperation. Gillian made a living selling hope, selling the idea that if you listen to her, you'll achieve your goals. Gillian is a representation of a specific type of person that angers me to no end, a person who plays fast and loose with people's struggles in order to capitalize off them and serve their own interests in the process. I'll have more to say on this matter in the upcoming couple of videos, because this is only part of a greater problem I see in self-styled weight loss experts trying to make a quick buck. The problem is way more deep-rooted and, unfortunately, accepted than you might initially think. But for now, all I'll say is, if there's anything you should really limit your consumption of, it's Gillian McKeith's opinions. If you're looking for some actually good content to sink your teeth into, make sure to check out my video on Abby Sharp, who I mentioned earlier. It's a whopping 2 hours long, and this video serves as kind of a spiritual successor to it. If you like this video and wanted to see more, I highly recommend subscribing to my channel. I'm working on a smaller companion piece to this video about fat camps, so make sure to stick around for that if it sounds interesting. I don't usually make weight loss content, but I figured it would be fun to embark on a sort of mini arc where I make a few videos centering around a similar theme. If you want early access to that, as well as access to sneak peeks of upcoming projects, make sure to check out my Patreon. It's a flat fee of €1 per month and allows me to make longer, more in-depth videos. That's all for this time, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers!